Imagine your attic right now on a hot summer day. It's likely reaching around 150 to 160 degrees Fahrenheit, while the outside temperature is only 95 degrees. That's a difference of 60 degrees. All of this heat is pushing downward into your home, overwhelming your air conditioning system, which is working hard to keep your house at a comfortable 72 degrees. The truth is, your air conditioner isn't just battling the outdoor heat. It's struggling against the heat trapped in your attic. Now, there's an easy fix that could drop that attic temperature by as much as 50 degrees or more. The catch? This fix is already half installed in most American homes, but it's often not functioning as it should. By the end of this explanation, I'll show you how to check if it's working in less than 2 minutes. The hidden costs of poor attic ventilation. You might be wondering, what's the real cost of a poorly ventilated attic? It's not just about higher energy bills, though those are significant. It's also about the damage happening to your roof. Your shingles are cooking from below, not from the sun, but from the heat trapped underneath them. Roofing contractors across the country have reported that bad attic ventilation can reduce the lifespan of shingles by as much as 24%. In extreme cases, the loss can reach up to 50%. Let's do the math. If your roof cost $12,000 to install, you could lose up to $3,000 of that investment if the shingles deteriorate early. And here's the kicker. This issue is invisible from the ground. You won't even know it's happening unless you get into the attic. What the manufacturers don't tell you. Here's a part of the story that might surprise you. Major roofing companies, GAF, Owens Corning, Atlas, require that homes have adequate attic ventilation as a condition of their warranty. If your attic isn't properly ventilated, the warranty may have been voided the day your roof was installed. So even though you paid for a roof with a 30-year warranty, you might find yourself with zero coverage. And when your shingles start to curl, crack, or lose granules and you file a claim, the roofing manufacturer will send an inspector to check. If the attic ventilation isn't up to par, your claim will be denied, leaving you to foot the bill for a new roof. The energy savings. You're missing proper attic ventilation can reduce cooling costs by as much as 10 to 15%. For a home that spends thousands of dollars annually on cooling, that could mean hundreds of dollars saved every summer. While that's a nice chunk of change, it pales in comparison to the cost of having to replace your roof 5 years earlier than you should. The real expense here is the premature deterioration of your shingles and the fact that your warranty won't cover it. How attic ventilation is supposed to work. So how does attic ventilation work when it's functioning properly? It's a simple system. Cool outside air enters the attic through vents at the bottom of the roof, typically located in the soffit, the underside of the overhanging eaves of your house. As this air rises, it picks up heat along the underside of the roof deck. Hot air naturally rises, and it exits through the ridge vent at the peak of the roof. This creates a continuous airflow. Air enters through the bottom, rises, and exits at the top, all without the need for fans or electricity. It's an entirely passive system. The U.S. Department of Energy considers the combination of ridge and soffit vents to be the most effective attic ventilation system available. When it's working properly, the temperature inside your attic should only be 10 to 15 degrees warmer than the outside air. On a day when it's 95 degrees outside, that means your attic should be around 105 degrees, not the sizzling 160 degrees it could reach without proper ventilation. The real-world impact of proper ventilation, take the example of a homeowner in Austin, Texas. After balancing the ventilation system in their attic, installing both a ridge vent and the proper soffit intake vents, the temperature in their attic dropped from a scorching 140 degrees to a more manageable 95 degrees. That's a 45-degree reduction, all from fixing a system that should have been working right from the start. Why your ventilation might not be working. So why is your attic ventilation system not performing as it should? Research reveals that around half of all U.S. homes suffer from inadequate ventilation. The most common issue isn't a missing vent, but rather a blocked one. Insulation, particularly blown-in insulation, can drift toward the eaves over time, blocking the intake vents. In some cases, bad insulation gets shoved into the rafter bays by installers trying to maximize coverage, or rodents might drag it there. Over time, this insulation can seal off the intake vents completely, leaving the exhaust vents at the top of the roof with no fresh air to pull in. It's like having a chimney with the fireplace bricked over. Air can't flow, and your attic starts to cook. Sometimes, it's not just a matter of blocked vents. In some homes, soffit vents may have been installed poorly or deceptively. Vinyl or aluminum panels can cover the original wood vents during a siding job, making it look like there's ventilation when, in reality, there's none. You can check for yourself. If you push up on the vent with your hand, you might find that it's solid behind the perforated surface. The airflow that you think is happening never existed in the first place. Conclusion: a poorly ventilated attic isn't just an inconvenience. It's an expensive problem that can cost you in terms of both roof damage and increased energy bills. The solution is simple, and checking your attic ventilation could save you thousands of dollars over the years. The first step is knowing what's wrong. If your vents are blocked or missing, it's time to get them fixed. Make sure your attic is properly ventilated, and you'll be doing your roof, your wallet, and your energy bill a huge favor. At times, roofers will install a ridge vent along the peak of the roof. While this is a good first step, there's one key thing often overlooked. No one checks whether the intake vents are clear, whether insulation is blocking the airflow, or even if the house has proper intake vents to begin with. While the ridge vent works as an exhaust, it's useless without proper intake, leaving the attic to bake in heat. But that's not all the trapped heat is doing. On a daily basis, a typical family generates between 2 to 4 gallons of moisture from cooking, taking showers, and simply breathing. In a well-ventilated attic, that moisture rises along with the hot air and exits through the ridge vent. However, in a sealed attic, that moisture condenses on the underside of the roof deck, soaking into the insulation. The result? Wet fiberglass insulation loses up to 80% of its R value, the very factor that makes it effective at blocking heat from entering your home. So the insulation you paid for is barely working because the ventilation system that would keep it dry is blocked by, ironically, the same insulation. This issue is a consequence of a problem that's quietly happening in millions of attics. In many homes, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, HVAC ducts, run through the attic space. When your air conditioner pushes cold air through ductwork that's surrounded by heat at 160 degrees Fahrenheit, the air begins to warm up before it even reaches your living spaces. Essentially, you're paying to cool your attic, not your home. And if you live in a region where it snows, there's another issue at play. A warm attic melts the snow on your roof from beneath. This meltwater runs down to the eaves, which are colder since they extend beyond the heated part of the house. The water then refreezes and forms a ridge of ice. More water collects behind this ice dam, backing up under your shingles and causing leaks into your ceiling. These ice dams can cause damage worth hundreds to thousands of dollars per event, and they all start with the same blocked soffit vent. Many homeowners make the mistake of trying to fix the problem themselves. If your attic is excessively hot, the first thing you might do is search online for solutions. The most common advice you'll find suggests installing a powered attic fan, an electric fan mounted on the roof with a thermostat. You may spend anywhere from $200 to $400 on one. It sounds logical, right? The fan pulls hot air out of the attic. However, here's what actually happens. The fan creates negative pressure inside the attic. If the soffits are blocked, and in half of American homes they are, there's no outside air for the fan to draw in. Instead, it pulls conditioned air from inside your home. Air from your living space is sucked up through every gap in the ceiling, around recessed lights, plumbing chases, and even the attic hatch. This air is then blown out through the roof. As a result, your air conditioner works harder, your energy bills rise, and the problem gets worse. The U.S. Department of Energy's Building America program explicitly warns against powered attic fans in homes with inadequate intake ventilation. According to a study, these fans can pull an average of 231 cubic feet per minute of conditioned air from the house. That's not a small leak, it's your air conditioner working against itself. You spent money to make the problem worse when the real fix, clearing the insulation from the soffits, would have been free. So, why doesn't your roofer check for these issues? The roofing industry in the United States generates more than $76 billion a year. The cost of a typical roof replacement ranges between $10,000 and $20,000. Roofers are responsible for stripping the old shingles, inspecting the decking, and installing new ones. They also install a ridge vent along the roof's peak because building codes require exhaust ventilation. However, checking whether every rafter bay has a clear airflow path from the soffit to the open attic isn't part of their job. It's not on the estimate, and it's not included in the scope of the bid. The roofer, who spends extra time crawling through your attic, checking every vent channel, will likely offer a higher quote and may lose the job to a competitor who didn't bother to check. Both roofers may install a perfectly functional ridge vent, but one of them will have an attic system that actually works. Nobody decided to skip this step. It was never part of the job to begin with. The roofer is paid to install a roof, and whether the attic underneath can breathe is a separate matter, requiring a different set of skills. It's an additional task that homeowners simply don't know to ask for. Now, let me show you how to check if your attic ventilation is functioning properly. It's easier than you think. First, pick a morning before the heat of the day sets in. You definitely don't want to be crawling around in an attic that reaches 160 degrees Fahrenheit by the afternoon. Make sure to wear gloves, long sleeves, and a dust mask if you have fiberglass insulation in your attic. Let's get up into your attic and see what's going on. The first thing you'll need is a flashlight. Climb up there and direct your attention toward the lowest point of the roof, where the slope meets the exterior wall. Take a close look at the space between the insulation and the roof deck along the edges. If you spot a gap or see daylight coming through the soffit vents, that's a positive sign. Air is getting in, and that's what we want. But here's the problem you might find. If there's insulation piled up against the roof deck all the way to the edge, with no gap and no light coming through, Then you've identified the blockage. You'll notice pink or yellow fiberglass stuffed tightly against the underside of the roof, completely filling the space between the rafters. That's the obstruction preventing airflow, and it's causing the issue. The solution is simpler than you might think. Put on your gloves and carefully pull the insulation away from the soffit openings. You don't need to remove it entirely. Just shift it back 6 to 12 inches from the eaves to clear a path. This will create a clear channel, allowing air to flow from the soffit vent up into the attic. Move along the edge, working through each rafter bay. As you go, you should start to feel the difference. Once you've cleared a section, you might even feel outside air moving past your hand. Air that has just entered the attic for the first time in however long the insulation has been blocking it. This is a simple fix. You're not adding anything new, you're just letting the ventilation system that was already built into your home do its job. If you want to prevent the insulation from drifting back into place over time, you can install rafter baffles. These are foam or plastic channels that you can find in the insulation aisle at most hardware stores. They're shaped like shallow trays about 2 feet long and the width of a rafter bay. Simply slide one into each space between the rafters, right where the roof deck meets the soffit, and staple it into place. These baffles hold the air path open, preventing the insulation from creeping back into it. They cost between $1 and $2 each, and you'll need about 30 to 40 for a typical house. That's an investment of about $30 to $80, plus a few hours with a staple gun. It's not glamorous work, but it's the kind of project that will save you money every month for as long as you live in the house. In some cases, a home may be missing part of the system altogether. There might be no ridge vent or no soffit vents at all. If that's the case, you'll need to have the other half installed. Ridge vent materials cost between $2 and $4 per linear foot, and adding one during a roof replacement, which already costs between $10 and $15 will only add another $300 to $650 to the overall price. That's pocket change compared to the cost of the entire project. Soffit vents, on the other hand, can run anywhere from $35 to $65 installed. When you get your next roofing quote, make sure to ask 2 important questions. Does the quote include continuous ridge ventilation? And has anyone verified that the soffit intake is clear? If the contractor looks at you like nobody's ever asked those questions before, that tells you everything you need to know. For under $1, $0, you can complete the ventilation system, cutting cooling costs by 10 to 15%, extending the life of your shingles, protecting your warranty, keeping your insulation dry, and preventing ice dams from forming. Or you can simply clear the blockage yourself at no cost and get most of those benefits right away. So, what difference does it make? That upstairs bedroom that was always a few degrees warmer than the rest of the house, the one that never quite cooled down in the afternoon, will now even out. Your air conditioner, which used to run for long, grinding cycles all day, will start cycling shorter. The house will become quieter in a way you didn't even realize it wasn't before. And when your next electricity bill arrives, you'll notice a difference. Maybe $20, maybe $40. It may not seem like much, but over time it adds up. Best of all, the roof that was supposed to last 30 years might actually last that long now. The warranty you paid for is real. Think about what was happening right above your ceiling all this time. A surface as large as your entire house, baking at 160 degrees Fahrenheit, radiating heat down through your insulation into every room below, while your air conditioner worked tirelessly to maintain a cool 72 degrees. Just a foot away from the insulation, there was a vent opening designed to let that heat escape. It had been there all along since the house was built. It just couldn't do its job because it was blocked. The most expensive surface of your house was slowly being destroyed by heat, simply because that clear air channel was obstructed. The shingle manufacturer who sold you a 30-year warranty will point to that blocked vent and say it's not their responsibility. The fix was always in your attic, and it's been there all along.